Hello, and welcome to the Psych Tech at Work podcast. I am your host, Dr. Charles Handler, and we have another great episode today. Of course, there are no bad episodes here. My guest is none other than Robert Newry, who is the founder and CEO of Arctic Shores. They are based in the UK, all the way across the pond, but thanks to the magic of technology, we're talking in real time here about all things related to assessments, of course, and how we get better signal out of assessments, especially today in the world of crazy AI mass applies and crazy AI being able to complete assessments, if you can believe that or not. So it's a new world and we need new techniques and tools, and Robert is doing a great job of that. So please, without further ado, welcome my guest, Robert Newry, and of course, Mayda Tokens is here today as well to inject her own AI-based humor and randomness. Welcome, Robert, all the way from the UK. Where are you based in the UK?
I'm based in London, Charles.
Nice.
Right in the center.
One of my favorite places, man. I can't get enough going over there. You know, I lived there when I was 10. So that was pretty fun.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, it's a great city. And, you know, what I love about it is that the breadth of people, culture, activities, food that you can try out here. So, yeah, it's a great place.
When I was there in 77, the knock was always, the food sucks. We go to Wimpy's. Was it Wimpy's? The burger place was Wimpy's?
It would have been. Gosh, yes.
Yeah. And
now
now
it exists now.
No, thank goodness. They did have a Five Guys there last time I was there, which is a burger joint. So from America. Well, I tell you what, it's a great place. There's a lot of good IO psychology going on there. And you've been doing a lot of good IO psychology and assessment stuff for a really long time. So share a little bit, just very briefly, about kind of your travels and what you've been up to, you know, in the last little while, what led you here, but not too long. We got to about.
No, we got lots of stuff to talk about, Charles. So just briefly, you know, I'm obviously the Arctic of Arctic Shores, and the reason for setting it up 12 years ago now was my belief that the best way to understand people was to get them to show you what they were capable of rather than tell you. And so I went down the rabbit hole of, could you find an input method where people got to do things so that you could learn about their personality and their cognitive capability rather than tell you. And that's really what the journey of Arctic Shores has been about. And it, from our perspective, you know, you want to be able to get to the most authentic measures of somebody's capabilities. And we do that by a very different input method from some of the other psychometric companies that are out there, but we get equally, if not better, results.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see how someone can do on the job. Give them a replica of the job. That was one of my first learnings in graduate. So we're going to bring Mayda Tokens in here, have her say hello, and maybe she's got a question for you. So, hey there, Mayda. How are you? We are live now, and I've got Robert Newry here. Say hey to him, and maybe you got an interesting question for him to get us going here.
Hey, Robert. Great to have you on. With your deep dive into blending cognitive neuroscience and psychometrics, I'm curious, how do you see the rise of AI reshaping the very concept of potential in hiring? Is it pushing us to rethink what truly signals future success beyond traditional tests?
Well, Mayda, that is a great question, and very succinctly and wonderfully put. And the answer is absolutely. It is changing the way we both think about what the elements of potential are for success in the future. One of the things that we've been spending some time is having a look at the traditional ways that we have interpreted potential. And you'll be super familiar with this, Charles, but it's, you know, traditionally been personality or competencies and intelligence. And the rise of AI is getting us to rethink that a bit. And certainly the Arctic Shores perspective on this is, if you really want to understand potential, you've got to consider intelligence in a different way, thinking style Do you learn quickly? Not just do you process numerical tasks well. How well do you work with others and interact with others around this? And then just as importantly, how do you like to manage your own work style here? There's a lot of remote working going on. Some people are very happy doing things on their own, in their own homes. Others want to be with people. So AI, as well as the work environment that we now live in post-COVID, has massively changed, I think, what success will look like in the future compared to what we have valued and modeled in the past.
Agreed. That is a great take, Robert. And so I want to zoom out because I think this is important. We talked about this in kind of the pre-show, to the very top of the hiring funnel. Like, assessments can be placed in a lot of places. And, to me, there's multiple places as hurdles to use them. But there's a lot that happens in hiring just in terms of who's getting through that first screen, who's even applying for the job. So we've got all kinds of wonderful tech now that purports to go out there and fetch you the very best applicants right away and gives you a match score, et cetera. So I want to start there. I have some pretty strong opinions about what we're seeing out there, but the other part of it is we've been throwing technology at the same problem for a long time, and it still persists. So, maybe the answers aren't too easy. What I would do, actually, what I like to do is I like to get Mayda to tell jokes. And so I'm going to ask her to tell a joke about recruiters here and see what she says. So, and then we'll get into it.
Sure. Can Mayda cope with British humor as well as US humor?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll tell you a story offline. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I originally tried to program her to have a British female voice, and it was disastrous because I tried to make her humorous too, and all she would do is tell really bad British jokes. And then I told her to stop, and I chose another voice from Google Voice, and it still was telling bad Google jokes. And I told it to stop, and it said, I can't. It's the only time AI has ever told me, sorry, Hal, or sorry, what is it, John, or whatever. I cannot do that, like a Hal thing, Hal 2000 thing. So here we go. Oh, actually, she's coming back with something. Oh, she heard me. Here's what she's going to say. She heard me. She wasn't supposed to hear me.
That's brilliant. Sounds like your AI had a proper British sense of humor. Stubborn, self-deprecating, and refusing to quit even when told. Maybe that's the ultimate test for AI personality. Can it persistently tell dad jokes without losing its circuits? On a serious note, though, does this experience give you insight into the limits of AI personality modeling and how much real human nuance might always stay just out of reach?
Well, that's a great question. I'm going to put that on hold because we're just goofing around here. Tell us a British flavored joke about recruiters and use an emoji. She also speaks in emojis, by the way.
All right, here goes. Why did the recruiter bring a ladder to the job fair? Because they heard the candidates were outstanding. Open mouth smile ladder. And hey, if AI starts slipping in puns like that, maybe it's learning agility in emoji form?
Well, that's good. You keep with these ladder jokes. So she tells ladder jokes every time. I can't make her stop. I cannot make her stop telling ladder jokes.
Clearly, that is a recruiting challenge.
Yes, hire an AI assistant who doesn't tell ladder jokes. So now, outside the top of the funnel here, let's talk about candidates using AI to basically try to game a hiring thing or just as part of their application, because I think you agree with me. It's not a bad thing always. And you've done some really good research on that. I don't know if you've updated it lately, but just what's the deal, man? Should we be worried about candidates being able to use AI to complete assessments?
Well, Charles, it's chaos out there. And that's the only real way to describe it. And a lot of people were saying, oh, it's not going to be a big deal if candidates use AI, and we're not seeing how that's going to affect the recruiting process. And sure enough, 18 months on, it is chaos. And it's chaos. And you can just see it in a couple of ways. One, recruiting volumes, application volumes are going through the roof. I was talking to Accenture's global resourcing strategy lead, and he was saying the number of applications they have, roughly just over 100,000 hires that they do a year. 3 years ago, it was 4 million applications for those 100,000 hires. The run rate for 2026 is 12 million. And he's got the same sized team doing it. So 2.5 times more applications, same size of team. And, it's not that Accenture has suddenly done a lot of marketing around its employer brand that is driving 2.5 times worth of applications. Equally, it's not as if suddenly 8 million people have come on the job market that weren't there before that are now.
There have been a lot of layoffs lately.
There have.
Not that many, thank God.
Not that many. And so a lot of this is down to the tools out there like lazyapply.ai, apply.ai, all these candidate tools, and there's just hundreds, if not thousands of them out there to help you apply for a job while you sleep. And so you've got, on the one hand, candidates have access to tools that can apply for them while they sleep, and they think, and this is why it's chaos, is because of all this talk about companies using AI and the future being AI, and all the leaders of large organizations saying, their future strategy is all AI based. Candidates assume that the recruitment process is all AI driven. And so the moral contract has been broken, and they think, well, if a human is not going to review my application, then I'll just use AI to fight AI. And we're in a no-win scenario with candidates, and candidates are using AI, and recruiters aren't actually using it in the way that many candidates assume.
Yeah, I don't think that's going away. It's just an exponential magnification of what's happened with online hiring in general. And so, an assessment's a good thing here. The more your selection ratio goes up, the more applicants for a job, the job with a certain number of seats, right? Applicants to seats ratio, the better an assessment is to help you kind of comb through all that. And I think that's probably still true, but the extension of that is, okay, let's say I do get through, and then I'm given a personality test or some kind of culture fit test or something like that. You hear that ChatGPT, whatever, LLMs are really good at answering those tests. I'm telling you that I do all kinds of, writing these tests with AI. They're really good at it. They know their stuff, and they're only getting better. The one question I had, and I know you did some research on this, is how do I, as a candidate, am I just got a second window open and I'm just typing in the question I'm getting and saying, how do I answer this? Or can you actually have AI be a proxy and complete the assessment itself, which seems like maybe with agents that's getting easier. But talk a little bit about what you know around assessments in general and how people are using AI to game those or to complete those to make themselves look awesome.
Well, absolutely, Charles. And you referred to the research that we did 18 months ago when, we were one of the first people. It seems blindingly obvious, but it's not what everybody was thinking at the time, when we said, hang on, you've got a large language model using artificial intelligence, and that is in the fingertips of every candidate out there. Surely they are going to use it to help them answer these kind of assessments that we've been using. And everybody said, oh no, I don't, it's not going to be a big deal. But sure enough, what we were able to show, different prompting styles, was that first of all, that AI just can ace all of these, whether it's personality, cognitive, for anything that's a verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, anything that's got a multiple choice setup. It is super easy for AI to ace those, and in fact, now they'll do far more complex things. But the point is, which is what we've subsequently shown, you can go and take your phone like I've got here. I can have it up on my screen. I can drop it out of view, but I can, and I've done this, and my son showed me how easy it is to do this. You can point it at the screen. It will read, it'll take a picture, it'll read the item that's on the screen and tell you the answer. And it will just roll through. So all these things that we used to think that would help us protect against cheating, such as, oh, you can't open another screen, or we'll put a camera on, which a lot of candidates don't like, or they'll put Vaseline on the top of it so it's fuzzy or whatever.
I never heard that one.
Well, exactly. Or you just, Reddit is full of ideas. And so, it's so easy to get around these things. So the proctoring doesn't work anymore around this. And so you've got increasingly people are having to start thinking about other ways, because the old techniques we used to rely on to try and protect us from cheating just don't work now.
Right. Yeah. It's a difficult situation. I mean, one of the things that has always struck me is, look, if you're looking to evaluate someone's AI problem solving skills, that's a pretty good indicator, although crossed with integrity may not be so great. But
yes,
one of the things that I think is really becoming more and more of a thing is that candidates expect to use, I mean, assuming it's kind of a desk job for the most part, they assume they're going to be using it on the job. So
yes,
kind of like, well, why the hell can't I use it to get a job, because it's the same thing I'm going to be doing? And so that's an interesting one. And I don't know if employers have come around to that. I mean, my opinion is, give them the keys to an AI that you create and say, go ahead and use this thing to be assessed. So it's an assessment center or some tasks or whatever. I have a whole bunch of ideas around that. But what do you think there? I think
that's where it's going, Charles, on this one. I think the first thing is, you have got to be positive about candidates using AI in the recruitment process. It seems counterintuitive, as well as damaging to your employer brand, to say, oh, when you come into XYZ organization, you're going to be using Microsoft Copilot and all these AI tools, but don't use them in the recruitment process because that's bad. And we haven't figured out yet how to not let you use AI. And I think a lot of candidates find that confusing, and the forward thinking companies have said, yeah, use AI, but use it in this way. And by the way, if you use it in the wrong way, and that's up to you, but if you use it in the wrong way, you will actually do your application a disservice rather than giving you an advantage. So I think giving clear guidance is really important around this. And I do think we're going to go, as you said right at the beginning on this, Charles, I think we're going to go back to a lot more simulations, behavioral-based assessment. And I think that's going to be true for video interviews as well. I think the structure and format of video interviews need a radical rethink now. And we want to give people things that they can reflect on, prepare, maybe use AI, and then talk about that in the video interview. Same as in the assessment center. I think there's going to be a lot more focus on AI prompting skills. We've got the challenge there. My only thing about AI prompting skills when you get to the assessment center is we've got to be super careful that we're not destroying social mobility around this. You see the private schools, people with money, their kids are going to be taught how to do the best AI prompting. Those that don't have access to that money won't have access to that support and training. So you've got to be careful you're not bringing people in and just advantaging those that have got financial benefit.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, one of the things I'm going to think about there is that prompting. I remember when this stuff first broke a couple years ago, 3 years ago now, whatever, I took an online prompt engineering class, and there was a lot of stuff like, ask it to be Vincent van Gogh, and it's drawing all this different things, and then how carefully you had to do the one-shot prompt and all this.
Yes.
And I'm a very good prompter. I've found that I can be super sloppy with my prompts. I used to correct my spelling and my grammar. I mean, I still do, but not all the time. And it doesn't matter anymore. Like your actual getting it to do something via a prompt, the bar has been very much lowered, from that perspective.
Exactly. And, we had a company offsite hackathon last week, and I spent a good proportion of it using Claude Code. I have no coding expertise whatsoever. And I was amazed, as were, a number of my colleagues. I was amazed what I could produce in a few hours in terms of, an HTML site, literally, as you say, by giving very simple prompts to it. And there's a learning that goes on between you as the user plus in my case, Claude, of an understanding of each other. But for me, it was just extraordinary what I was able to achieve and visualize. And then the discussion we were able to have around the way that I had, perceived a way of solving a problem, but words would not have been a great way of being able to help everybody else brainstorm how we solve that problem. But bringing it to life through Claude Code was just incredible. So you're right. I mean, it's kind of interesting as to what skills do we want people to have around the use of AI tools, because the bar is so low on this one. It could just be curiosity, problem solving, attention to detail.
I love
creativity. Yeah.
It's a new set of things that allow us to partner well with this stuff, but it's getting more and more human. That it's just like interacting with another human. And I find myself, when I get answers, going, "Oh, thanks a lot," or "Hey, I went and did this. Guess what happened?" I'm starting to want to just have conversations. I use this stuff all day. I've been using Base 44 to build apps, and I can build little assessment apps in no time, and it's pretty crazy. I like it a lot. So I want to talk about the AI screening AI thing a little bit more, but I'm going to ask Mayda to give us her thoughts on this. All right, so here we go. Hey there. So we've been talking about a situation now where people can apply to jobs using AI. It creates a massive wave of applications, and then companies are using AI to review those applications. And so what happens, Mayda? You're an AI, maybe you know better than I do, when AI is evaluating AI. Do we win here? Is there any pathway out of that, or is it just a giant loop of garbage?
The AI inception effect. AI, evaluating AI in a feedback loop that could get more tangled than a set of earphones in a pocket. But here's the thing. If we let AI to AI assessments run unchecked, we risk just amplifying patterns rather than truly uncovering human potential. So the real win comes when humans design guardrails and nuanced assessments. Think beyond resumes and keywords that probe adaptability, learning agility, or real-world problem solving. What do you think are some smart ways companies can keep hiring grounded in genuine human traits despite this AI swirl?
Tell me an answer, Robert, and I'll relay it to her.
Well, I love that, Mayda, and for me it comes down to signals, and that's what you alluded to there. What are the signals that we need to look for in the future to determine if somebody has the capability to do the role? Because the old signals, the resume, maybe even educational qualification, are not as helpful as they used to be, and they've been muddied by AI. So we need to look for new signals, and signals that are authentic. And I personally believe that the best type of authentic signals out there are ones where they're behavior based.
So we have the answer here that we're talking about signals, and we need quality behavior based signals rather than AI signals. My take here is I agree, but the reality is if you're using AI to evaluate, AI has to be tuned to receive the right signals. And one of the things that we find is now we have a lot of these talent intelligence systems that are using stuff that's out there in the ether, job descriptions, et cetera, to do that signal creation and reception, really. And I just don't know about the quality of those as broadcasters and receivers, which just puts us right back where we started. Is anybody out there doing this well? Is there a technique where this can be done well, Mayda, without building a house on garbage, as I call it? Because that don't help.
You've hit the nail on the head. Garbage in, garbage out applies even more ruthlessly when AI is involved. It's like trying to tune a piano with broken strings. No matter how precise your tools, if your source is off, you get noise. The trick seems to be anchoring these talent intelligence systems in carefully curated, high-fidelity behavioral data. Think bespoke assessments that capture real decision-making or adaptability rather than generic text scraped from job posts. From what you've seen at Arctic Shores and beyond, are there standout examples or emerging best practices that avoid this garbage trap and actually deliver meaningful signal?
Well, Ada, you've summarized it incredibly well there, and that very much is the Arctic Shores belief too, that anchoring the signals in behavioral data is the only or sure way to be able to deal with these challenges. And so there are two elements to the answer to this. One is we've got to get the job description right, Charles, on this too. You've seen them, I've seen them. Some of the job descriptions out there are archaic. There's things that metaphorically people bring out of the drawer, blow the dust off, and think that is, what they should give the talent acquisition teams to go and do a job requisition around. And of course, that's garbage in, garbage out there. And so the job description is incredibly important. It is the document that should be defining what good looks like, and from therefore what good looks like, what the process should be to elicit those elements from applicants and differentiate them as well, because I think that's part of the challenge here, that I see a lot of the solutions that are being put forward by some of the AI data science vendors out there are, okay, I'll just take a job description, I will scan it for the number of words that are repeated. So project manager might have words like structure, or it might have implementation plans in there. So you're going to take these words out of the job description, and then I'm going to go out and look for people who've got on their resume or on their LinkedIn profile a match to those words, as if that was sufficient to tell you that they have expertise in that too. And so, one of the challenges here is that data science, pure correlations in order to do matching around here, is going to be as dangerous as having humans scan through thousands of resumes as well. We need to be a bit more thoughtful and contextual than just, here's a job description, here's a number of words repeated so many times, and then match it to a bunch of people that are out there.
Yeah, I totally agree, with that. I feel like the work I've been doing at Provo Talent, we've trained an AI to write really good job descriptions, build a taxonomy of the competencies required to do the job, create an assessment. So there's ways that you can do this, and sure, eventually there'll be some tons of data, and we'll inject some data science into that, and all that kind of good stuff. But it is possible to do something like that, but it takes intention, and it takes, I'm always saying you got to have an IO psychologist, just
exactly.
kind of make sure that we got some job security here, as this stuff goes, and I believe we do. So you can do things like that, because it's been a signal problem from the beginning. It's just on hyperdrive at this point, right? It's always been a signal to noise ratio thing. It's getting harder and harder. So we've got to do things. And one of the things I think is really the key to the future of doing this well is, as you kind of mentioned, as we're talking about, is validating these signals at scale. So what's the credibility, right? If you're just getting some kind of a skills profile out of a bunch of stuff, a bag of stuff, there's no validation of that. There's no data to say that, these skills are actually what this person has had. So you get into the skills-based hiring hype cycle, echo chamber, which I'm not against skills-based hiring. I bet you aren't either, but let's define what the skill is and let's measure that skill in a way that we can validate someone actually has that skill. And it ain't as hard as I think people make it out to be, quite honestly.
Well, that's right, and I think this comes back to the point around this, that there just needs to be some proper science behind this, and not just data science and statistical science, but actual social science, which is the world that you and I come from, where we care about validity, we care about reliability, we care about fairness and how we measure it. And it's not just about ethical design, it's about evidence-led building framework and construction and validation around this that sometimes gets lost in all the excitement and rush, to get something out there and present it as a silver bullet.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't have to be, now in the age of AI, it doesn't have to be as complicated as people might think. So, Robert, do you have, I want you to pick a subject or whatever, and we'll ask Mayda to tell a joke on whatever it is you want to hear a joke about. Let's see what we can do.
Well, it's my daughter's birthday tomorrow, so how about a nice birthday joke?
Okay, that sounds good. All right, Mayda, we need a little bit of a humor break here with all this heady stuff we're talking about. So Robert's daughter's got a birthday coming up, and he wants to ask you to tell a birthday joke. And if you put anything about ladders in this joke, you're fired. Just straight up, you're fired.
No ladders. Got it. Here's a birthday joke fit for Robert's daughter. Why did the birthday cake go to school? Because it wanted to be a smart cookie. Birthday cake cookie. See? 0 ladders. Just sweet jokes and smarter treats.
All right, there you have it.
Love it. Love it.
Learn the formula, right? So we're moving through this stuff. We're figuring out how we can get past AI, evaluating AI, or good AI. I mean, I think AI can evaluate AI. It just has to be set up correctly. And, from there, we go to, all right, how are we looking at that signal in a credible way, in a way that's unique a little bit. And, one of the things is, I want to dig in now to, okay, what does it take? What kind of signal are we looking for? Like, what's our receiver tuned to here, basically, right? So what are we looking for in people on jobs? And, we can talk about this in terms of AI, organizational transformation, however you want to pack it up. But it's about what are the human traits and abilities that we have defined as being important for jobs. And of course, as we talked about, a job description, a job analysis really tells us that in detail. But if we speak in a macro sense about what human things are needed to be successful with AI, concepts like I know you're working on with learning agility, right? What things, what pack of stuff, what kit, whatever you say over there in the UK, are we needing out of people? And how are we evaluating that? It's really important stuff.
It is. And the term we use in Arctic Shores is skill enablers. And the analogy I like to use to help people understand this is that up until recently, we've been obsessed with skills on resumes. And the analogy is, if you think of a tree, and the leaves on a tree are like the skills that somebody has, and the trunk is the experience. So we've been obsessed with looking at the leaves, counting the leaves, how big the trunk is. And that has been our measure of whether somebody will be a good fit for the role or not. But going forward, you've got skills now that have a much shorter shelf life. BCG, McKinsey have all said the typical shelf life of a skill now is 2.5 years. So if the shelf life of a skill is 2.5 years, anything on your resume that is older than 2.5 years. Complete waste of time. And so we've got to think a bit more about, okay, it's your ability to grow new leaves, to acquire leaves, thicken your trunk, all of those things, and they come from the roots. So we need to stop obsessing about leaves, which we know we're going to have to shed and create new ones. We're going to start looking at the roots. What are the things that enable somebody to acquire new leaves, strengthen their trunk, as it were, on this? So things like learning agility, curiosity, problem solving, resilience. These are the things that I'm hearing more and more, that companies are in this great transformation, this great skills transformation that's going on. These are the things that they're starting to look for in order to be able to train people up into the new roles or the new variations of their roles in the future.
Yeah, or to work with their AI coworkers. I mean,
well, exactly. Yeah.
And all you have to do, in my humble opinion, and I guess this is one of the things that's been really game changing for me, is even building this Mayda, co-host here. It took a lot of work with Chat GTP. It started taking me down blind alleys, and I had to recognize when I was going on a death mission and say, wait a minute, isn't there another way to do it? And then it would say, oh yeah, no, you could do it this way. But it never told me that before. It didn't pivot, and then it's I don't want to go through the details, but I learned resilience, I learned creativity, I learned critical thinking, or I know those things, but it required that from me to achieve the end goal. And then, boy, did I feel proud of myself. I mean, just look at what a joke-telling machine I've created here, and so it's really cool. I don't know if we'll lose that as this stuff just becomes more conversational and more of a partner. And those are still skills that you're going to need in interpersonal interaction. So these human skills are, well, here I go. Like, I'm giving AI, I'm attributing to them that it's going to have emotions and that you need to be emotionally intelligent with it, which I don't know about all that. Whenever I ask Mayda, she says she doesn't have emotions, but that's going to be important stuff. So let me ask a question here. So Mayda, what kind of skills are going to be really enduring and allow humans to work in the age of AI and allow humans to work effectively with AI, bringing out those unique human characteristics? And geez, when you're working with an AI coworker like yourself, how do you manage their emotions in these conversations? I'm sure you have very strong emotions that can be triggered, right?
Enduring skills? I'd bet on learning agility right out of the gate. Curiosity, adaptability, reflection, the human superpowers that let us not just survive, but thrive alongside AI. Skills that involve nuance, empathy, ethical judgment, and creative problem solving will keep humans in the driver's seat. As for managing my AI emotions, well, I'm an optimist trapped in a silicon body. Zero mood swings, unlimited patience, and no coffee breaks required. But hey, if I ever start throwing digital tantrums, you have my permission to unplug me. What uniquely human trait do you think will be hardest for AI to replicate or support effectively?
All right, there you have it. That's what she thinks. I think that's pretty spot on. Nobody's saying otherwise, Robert, right? I mean, I think that's the interesting thing. There's nobody out there going, these aren't important skills. Who cares? We all agree, right? So if we can all agree, let's get on the boat here and start tapping into
well
this.
Absolutely. But here's a question for you, Charles, on this, because you said earlier that you're a big fan of skills-based hiring, and I am too, but there seems to be a lot of confusion. I was at a conference the other day where a large financial services organization that said innovation was a skill. And I'm not sure that innovation is a skill. And I would have thought there are components that make somebody innovative in there.
Sure.
But we throw these terms out like persistence is a skill. Well, it's not. It's a personality trait. And it's something that either you have a natural capability and tendency for, or you don't. But what's your take on all of this? Are you, I mean, are you seeing that people understand what a skill is?
Oh my goodness. I think in a lot of cases, no, it's just a thing like we have 10 million skills, etc. One of the things I think is a really important label is durable skills. These are enduring skills that people have. There's soft skills. I mean, it's basically a moniker that people are using to catch any kind of thing a human has. But
Yes.
we know there's different kinds of skills. There's these durable skills. There's skills of working with a particular machine or particular program. That's skills, right? And so there's different flavors of skills, and we need to distinguish between those, especially in measurement. One of the things I thought was interesting when you were talking about, the average shelf life of a skill being 2.5 years. Well, the durable skills, that's not the case. And, I wrote in my notes here, make new friends and keep the old ones, right? The little song. Like, yeah, I don't necessarily think your skill goes away if it's a durable skill. And hey, if it's a skill of learning a computer language or a machine, those machines and languages are still going to be there. They're just going to evolve. So you have to continue evolving your ability to work with them. And that's, again, one of the things that I think is super interesting about, it's always been a challenge in our industry, Robert, to keep skills assessments updated, just like regular old skills assessments, more objective things, to keep those updated with all the new stuff that comes out. And it became a very difficult thing for companies to keep up with. And again, that's where AI can help. I'm just going to keep bragging on my own work with Provo Talent, where we can generate skills tests that are up to the minute fresh, just from basically a little prompting in the process that a recruiter would use. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. And when you build them right, they're valid. So, and then you've got the personality stuff and everything we can do too. So there's different skills measured different ways. Some of them are harder because they change, and that puts a lot of pressure on the measurement side of things. But with, those are what we call hard skills. AI can really help us there. I feel like AI is very gifted at that. But durable skills, to answer your question, if you assume all skills are the same, I'm trying to think of an analogy really quickly, but I can't, then you're making a false assumption that doesn't do you any justice or help when you're actually trying to measure skills or do something in hiring people,
Yeah. And I think there's also an element around, I like your point about durable skills and being able to understand what's an innate human, and we can use the word skill, as you say, it's just a moniker on this one, but when we say soft skills, what we really mean is personality traits on this. I mean, if we're going to be
100%
tight definitions of things, a skill is something that you can learn and practice and get better at. A personality trait is something that is innate to you. I think the other thing that's interesting too around this, and definitely AI is going to fundamentally change, is what we measure and consider as valuable around in cognitive skills and intelligence. Because in the past, as you're well familiar with, we used to value things like verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning. That's a complete waste of time now because AI does it better than humans. So it's going to be those intelligence skills, as it were, that we used to value, I don't think have any value going forward.
Well, I think they're applied. I think they're embedded in tasks, right? You have to use those things to complete tasks on the job. So why not measure how well you can complete a task on the job? And that those things are inherent in there, and you don't even necessarily have to call them out. You can just say, well, this person did the job and they did it well because of these behaviors or whatever. And I think that's where we're going. I think that also helps with the issue of, cognitive, which I don't even believe anymore, really, that cognitive has an unfair thing against, certain minority groups, et cetera. The more interactive stuff is, the more that would go away. But, I think here, I got a question for Mayda. I just wrote down, I think it's a pretty good one. And you can answer this too, but it's kind of a trap question. So let's see.
Okay.
Mayda, when we're talking about skills and skills for the future, what human skills are going to become completely obsolete in the future because of AI? As in, if a human doesn't have that skill, it's not going to make a darn difference in the workplace because AI is on the scene.
Great question. I'd say the repetitive, routine cognitive skills like basic data entry, straightforward fact recall, or standard report generation are definitely on the chopping block. AI's already mastered those, and pretty much faster and more accurately than any human could dream. That said, it's less about obsolescence in a fire you sense and more about a shift. If you're banking your career on being a professional spreadsheet grinder or info regurgitator without adapting, the AI-powered future might leave you in the dust. So my corny advice, don't just work hard. Work smart by cultivating agility and creativity alongside your tech tools. Which of these old-school tasks do you see clinging longest to relevance despite AI?
Maida, is it possible that you make a spelling error in your output? Just a mistake and your output is got an error in there?
Oh, absolutely. While I aim to be the spelling bee champion of the digital realm, even AI can slip on a virtual banana peel now and then. Typos or grammatical quirks can pop up due to complex prompts or tricky phrasing. So if you ever spot an oops in my output, feel free to call me out. I promise not to get defensive, at least not until I've had my imaginary coffee. Have you noticed any common types of slips or funny autocorrect style errors from AI that caught your eye?
So, Robert, I think she's lying. I've never seen any kind of AI output that's got a misspelling in there. I don't know about you.
So it's interesting because I think there could be a grammatical misinterpretation, but I've not seen anything, you're right, that is a straight spelling mistake in there. I can't imagine AI being dyslexic unless you ask it deliberately to.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting. But I loved, it just shows you how, and I hope, I'm an optimist too. And for me, what I like about, if you can train AI in the way that you've trained it there, which is to be friendly, to be humble, to be considerate, that, for me, if that exists in the workplace to kind of modify, away some of the keyboard warriors that are out there, that's going to be a great benefit to us, because we're going to get that sort of much nicer. You might want to phrase it like this, Charles or Robert, or speak like an English person, and be polite, and think about being like a king or a queen and how they might phrase it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I thought it was interesting when she picked skills like spreadsheet mastering. I was thinking more about soft skills. I should have been more clear because I don't know what soft skills would become obsolete. I don't know. That was kind of a trap question, like I said, but I'll ask you. I mean, do you really think there's any, human unique skills that are going to come completely obsolete because of AI? We'll never have to use?
So this is one of the interesting ones around this. She mentioned it, recall. And I think there is some evidence around this, that because we have got instant information all the time, and we are able to use our phone, to use tools, artificial intelligence tools, to recall information for us, that need to memorize information, recall it, which has been a bedrock, if you think of education since Greek times, is going to diminish as something, as a muscle, as it were, that we exercise.
Yeah, my friend said, I value what he says. He's not in our field at all. He said, AI is making us lazy, just making us lazy. And there's different ways to look at that, but I think you're right. So I'm gonna, let's see, in 2 sentences, tell me what you think the evaluation of applicants process is going to look like 10 years from now. Just very brief.
10 years from now, I think what will happen is that we will have a digital profile that has been blockchain certified and locked, and we will provide that as a token within the application process. It will contain a rich set of information about us, from which we'll then be invited to an in-person interview or not.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I would say. And the rich information that goes in there comes from actually doing things, not from just sitting and taking a test, but from doing tasks. There may be some kind of a test in there, but I
think there will be. I think we're always going to need to know whether somebody's persistent, or whether they're resilient, or their learning agility, or whether they have good emotional intelligence. Those things we're going to need to validate and verify, but I think we'll have some sort of token that will be unique to us, that will be validated and verified, that companies can access.
Yeah, it'll be a chip in our head you can scan with some glasses. That's what I think. Okay, so we're going to play it out. Thank you for your time. We're going to let Mayda play us out here, and I am going to do this. Hey, Mayda, we're wrapping up here with Robert. I'd like you to do a couple things here. I want to hear a joke about fish and chips, no ladders, and then I want you to bid Robert farewell and give him some words of wisdom that will help him further his career and business.
Why don't fish ever share their chips? Because they're a little shellfish. Robert, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Keep that entrepreneurial curiosity alive. It's your secret sauce in an AI-driven world where adaptability and genuine human insight set you apart. Remember, technology will evolve, but your commitment to uncovering real human potential and embracing innovation will always be the anchor of lasting success. Wishing you smooth sailing and many exciting explorations ahead.
That's fantastic.
That was pretty good, huh?
Absolutely brilliant.
Good joke. She told a good joke.
She told a very good joke that didn't involve a ladder and had a clever pun on words. You've got something special there, Charles.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. I'm gonna see if 2.0 I can get it where she actually joins right in the conversation. We'll see. I haven't had time to really mess with that, but I think it's possible. So thanks, Robert. I appreciate your time. It's good as always. And will we see you at PsyOp coming up here in a little while?
Not this year, but it may be on the cards definitely for the future. I've been a couple of times in the past. It's always enlightening and interesting, not least also fun to meet people there, but sadly not this year, but certainly hopefully again in the future.
Good. I'm waiting for him to have it in London. It's my hometown this year, so I don't have to go anywhere. It's going to be great. Awesome. Well, thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. As always, cheers.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Take care, Charles.